Good afternoon. Buenas tardes.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. We are so honored to have your presence during our first day of the Mexican president to the Security Council. We will conduct this press conference in Spanish, so I just hope that everything, like the interpretation and everything is right. Voy a empezar a hablar en español.
I'm going to begin speaking in Spanish. If you can hear the interpretation, I hope that's okay.
Bienvenidas y bienvenidos.
Welcome to our press conference at which Ambassador Juan Ramón de la Fuente, permanent representative of Mexico to the UN and current president of the Security Council, will present the program of work. We'll then move on to the questions segment, and we have some people here in the room, and then we will move on to those connected online. And once again, we will finish up with a few more questions in the room. Ambassador, the floor is yours. Thank you very much. Once again, a very good afternoon to you. I'd like to very warmly welcome you and thank you for being here at this press conference. I thank both those of you who are here in the room with us and those who have joined us online. I'm pleased to be able to present the program of work for November. It was agreed this morning by the members of the Security Council that Mexico is assuming the presidency of today. I'd like to begin by taking the opportunity to congratulate Kenya for its stewardship during its presidency of the Council in October. As you are well aware, 2021 to 2022 represents the 5th time that Mexico is participating as an elected member of the Security Council. This is a role that we are proud to take on, but also and above all, we do so with full responsibility, and we know what it implies. We want our presidency to be an open, transparent, impartial, flexible, and effective one. The priorities that Mexico presented in its candidacy are based on the constitutional principles of our foreign policy and on the United Nations Charter. And it will be these principles that guide our work during our presidency. I'd like to underscore our interest in promoting and strengthening preventive diplomacy, putting the well-being of people at the heart of our action. We will be focusing on civilian protection, the promotion of a comprehensive approach that takes into account the impact of small arms and light weapons on international peace and security. We'll be looking at the defense of the rule of law and ensuring that all of the Council's decisions are in accordance with international law. And further, that they are in line with our feminist foreign policy. And we are proposing to make further headway in the Women, Peace and Security agenda. Mexico has spoken clearly in affirming that transparency and accountability are fundamental topics in the Council's work. For this reason, we will continue to promote these principles, to continue to improve the working methods of the Council to the extent that we are able. I'll now move on to commenting on a few of the events that we have programmed for this month. I'll begin with the signature events. On Tuesday, the 9th of November, we will hold an open debate on exclusion, inequality, and conflict. This event will be chaired by the President of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador. The concept note was already circulated for this event a few weeks ago. This is a matter of particular importance for my country and for many others. What we hope to do is to ensure that within the Council we can analyse some of the underlying causes of international insecurity. We believe it's timely for the Council to analyse the impact of corruption, exclusion, and inequality on conflicts. And we hope to be able to adopt a presidential statement as an outcome from this debate. On Tuesday the 16th, the open debate will be on international peace and security as a common objective to all of the principal UN organs. The aim of this event is to strengthen the ties between the main bodies of the organization with the Security Council, and that to ensure better coordination and greater efficiency and effectiveness in preventing conflicts. We also hope to be able to adopt a presidential statement as a result of that particular debate. And during the debate, we will hear briefings from the Secretary General, from the President of the General Assembly, from the President of ECOSOC, and the President of the International Court of Justice. On Monday, the 22nd of November, the Secretary for Foreign Relations will preside over a signature event entitled The Impact of the Diversion and Trafficking of Arms for Peace and Security. This is also a matter of high priority for Mexico's foreign policy. It is also of high priority for other countries. Already in last September this year, we organized a meeting on this in area formula format, and we hope that this event, to be held on the 22nd, will complement the briefing that was held during the Kenyan presidency. All of the member states and observers who so wish will be able to participate in the three debates in person. This was what also occurred during the recent open debate on women, peace and security, and to that end we urge the delegations to limit themselves to one representative per state, and to the extent possible to only enter the room just a little before taking the floor and then leave it after they have delivered their statement, to rigorously comply with the recommended hygiene measures. Of course, the debates will be broadcast on the UN Web TV channel, and the list of speakers registered for each debate will be circulated in a timely manner. Monthly meetings. Separately, the program includes monthly meetings on Syria, Yemen, and the Middle East. We have agreed that some of the meetings that are held more frequently will be held in the consultations format, that is, in closed meetings. Over the last few months, and particularly as a consequence of the pandemic, the Council has held fewer informal consultations. We believe that while open debates and transparency are very important, it is also important for members of the Council to be able to have the space to be able to analyse and debate things less formally, particularly on some items of their agenda. We hope that all of this will contribute to fostering more dynamic and frank conversations, so that we can see progress on those items and not only reiterate what has previously been said in some of them. We will also hold those meetings that are traditionally held in November. These are on Bosnia and Herzegovina, the Sahel, Somalia, Iraq and Libya, as well as the meeting on UNSMIL and the International Criminal Court. With regard to mandate renewals, we will have a meeting on EUFOR Althea, MINUSCA and UNISFA, as well as Somalia. On Friday the 5th, that will be this Friday, in parallel, the Security Council and the General Assembly will be holding elections to fill the vacant post on the International Court of Justice. On Wednesday the 10th, we will hold a briefing with police commissioners. This meeting will have a special approach because it will focus on the Women, Peace and Security agenda, as we agreed with Ireland and Kenya, which was to hold specific meetings with a gender-based approach during the months of September to November. On Wednesday the 17th, we will hold a meeting on Afghanistan. This will be the first meeting following the recent renewal of the UNAMA mandate last September. And as traditionally happens, and in line with our beliefs on accountability from the Council presidency, at the end of the month, I will convene a wrap-up and assessment session that will be available to all of you. This brings me to the end of my presentation. I thank you very much for listening, and we will now open the floor to hear questions and comments. Thank you very much.
Conforme a lo que el protocolo.
Ambassador, in accordance with protocol, I will give the floor to Valeria for her first question.
And thank you, Ambassador Mbiamvufanka, for this press conference. We wish you the best of luck for the busy month ahead. My question is on Ethiopia. So are you planning to discuss option and to push in the Security Council to demand for a ceasefire in the country? Thank you so much.
Por supuesto.
Of course, we are very concerned about the situation in Ethiopia. At this time, it is not formally planned to discuss on a specific date, but it's quite probable that at some point we will address the issue. Of course, the priority will continue to be access to humanitarian assistance, which is required. They need access. And we will continue to support efforts undertaken by the African Union. As some of you might know, Ireland proposed a presidential statement which is currently being negotiated. So we're in the process of defining what kind of communications should take place and when we might address the issue. And as soon as we have a date, we'll report that back to you as soon as possible.
CBS. favor.
Gracias.
Thank you and welcome. And we very much appreciate this press conference. Good luck with the month. I'm from the CBS News television station. As you know, the High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, addressed the Security Council on the topic of the link between refugees and migration. Do you have any idea of possibly addressing this issue over the course of this month, since there is an impact on Mexico and the world? Thank you. Of course, there is, Pamela. You're right, there is a connection. And I hope that in the second event, signature event that we were talking about earlier, that we'll be able to analyze and promote the link between the main UN bodies in the system. And I hope in the context of that discussion we can include that topic. It's a topic that's absolutely relevant. And for many of us, it would be surprising if it were not discussed, especially since part of the purpose of this event is to highlight the fact that the Security Council needs to have greater interaction with the other main bodies of the United Nations system. So I think this is a topic which is a good example of and typifies the need that exists there for greater communications between the various bodies. So I hope we'll have a space there to address that issue. Thank you, Pamela. Lenka?
Thank you very much for this briefing and congratulations to your presidency. In light of the worsening situation in Myanmar and the escalation of violence, do you foresee a meeting on the Security Council agenda? And what is your position as Mexico on what's going on? Thank you.
Sí,
Yes, thank you very much, Lenka. Indeed, I think that Myanmar is another one of those topics that, while it's not officially or formally included on the agenda that was adopted, is quite probable that we will organize something around it, given the very unfortunate situation that continues there. In fact, the Security Council has been closely following this issue and took a stand against the use of force. A few days ago, ASEAN had a summit, and we reiterated at that summit our support for these efforts, diplomatic efforts that have been undertaken through the regional organization. So once again, what's most important here, from my point of view, is humanitarian assistance. It's necessary, and it always opens up the way to possible access for humanitarian assistance. It opens the way for a mediation mechanism. So it's quite probable, highly probable, that we will also be addressing that issue in the coming days when we have a specific definition of what will happen. We'll let you know. Thank you. Javier? Microphone, please. Microphone for the journalist, please.
he's going to use his microphone. Pero le agradezco mucho.
But I'd like to thank Javier for asking the question in his high Spanish, because we do need to promote multilingualism. Of course. Thank you, says the journalist. The first question, the case of Sudan. I'm wondering if the Council is planning to address the issue of Sudan. Do you have a tentative date? Second question, you mentioned the case of Afghanistan. We know that in the month of November, the Credentials Committee needs to decide about representation for Afghanistan in the United Nations. So I'm wondering if there's any date for when that committee will be meeting and what will happen there. Thank you, says the President of the Security Council. There is no specific date for that, no date for Sudan yet. It's not scheduled, but like the other cases that you've raised, we have it clearly identified as an issue that we will have to put on the agenda very soon. Now, the Council did adopt a communique, a press release on the 28th of October, calling for the release of the Prime Minister at that time and other members of the government. And we had an emergency meeting on the 26th of October where the special representative informed us about what's happening on the ground. The press statement was adopted, and we have reports. The reports that the special representative had a meeting with the Prime Minister Hando last Sunday. So there are a number of events that the Security Council needs to be updated on again to be able to take a decision on this. But when the program was adopted today, those topics which you are mentioning in a very timely fashion, those topics were not yet scheduled. But still, they are clearly envisioned for the agenda that we'll be adding to over the course of the next few days. We'll be adding these different topics. For me personally, it seems to me that they're unavoidable. So as soon as we have a date, we'll let you know. As to Afghanistan, the meeting we'll be having on that will be the first since the mandate was renewed of UNAMA in September. So it will be an oral report, and once again, the main source of concern at this point in time is the humanitarian situation once again, as you well know. And I must not overlook mentioning other concerns which are part of the Afghanistan agenda, and they're there. There's the issue of human rights, the issue of terrorism, and sanctions, which continue to be in place against Afghanistan. So that will be an important meeting, and I hope that we'll be able to take some steps in the best possible direction. And that's the priority from our perspective, is mostly humanitarian assistance. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Señor Presidente.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Ask my question in English so everybody hears. Two questions, actually, on Libya, on UNSMIL. Aren't you concerned that this briefing's being held so late in November when there still remain serious questions about whether the election is going to go ahead on schedule on December the 24th? And on a much broader question, you've been on the Security Council now for 10 months. The Secretary General has expressed concern about serious divisions on the Council, especially among the 5 permanent members. I wonder what your feelings are about how the Council is and isn't working. Thank you.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Edith. Well, the topic of Libya seen from the point of view of the calendar, and elections planned for the 24th of December. And there's some leeway there, but it's limited. Still, we will need to pay attention to at the meeting of 12 November that will take place in Paris. That's an international conference with participation of countries that are part of the Berlin process and neighboring countries to Libya. So really, what we'll have an opportunity to do is to use the updated information to evaluate preparations for the elections and the progress that's been made. It seems to me that that's what's most important. Now, there's another issue which is related to Libya, and that is that the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court will be presenting the semester report on the Libyan situation, which was referred to the court by the Security Council by its resolution on the matter. So Mexico, as coordinator for states parties to the Rome Statute and as member of the Council, will propose that the group issue a joint message after that session. So we need to have all the information so we can better evaluate. And now, as to these recurrent divisions that are seen in the Council, they're known and recognized. We think that one way of making some headway might be, in some instances, going back to the consultations format in closed session, because there the temptation of reiterating positions and stances which are already well known might be somehow set aside a little bit, and that a closed session might be more dynamic, and we might be able to make some headway in such a situation. We've also proposed to members of the Council that these consultations meetings, when they take place, should be held in the consultations room, the proper room of the Council. And the format there, as you know, is more conducive to interactions that are more dynamic, a little more lively. Hopefully that would be a factor that we can leverage to try and make some progress in some of these recurrent situations where positions become, of all members of the Council, are known in the debates, open debates.
Canada Free Press.
Thank you. I want to go back to migration and immigration. You mentioned that you envision that this could be a topic for the open debate on the 16th in particular, but I'm also wondering on the 9th, the maintenance of international peace and security relating to exclusion and inequality, whether it could fit in there in relation to root causes. And secondly, perhaps in your national capacity, if you could comment on what you anticipate Mexico will be doing in the way of cooperating with the Biden administration and re-implementing the Remain in Mexico policy, and also in deploying the requisite police and soldiers to stop the advance of these huge caravans. I know in one case the caravan just barreled through a police line. I'm wondering if there are any plans to reinforce those lines, against the advance of these caravans. Thank you.
Muchas gracias a usted, Joseph.
Thank you very much, Joseph. You're right. And I welcome the fact that you might have found some kind of common thread between the debate on the 9th and then the subsequent debates that Mexico has proposed as signature debates, because indeed there is such a common thread. Well, I would say that on this point in particular, I would like to ask you to listen closely to the views that will be given on this by the President of Mexico and the Secretary of Foreign Relations, because in the issue of the illicit trafficking of arms, that is also very linked to cross-border problems. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I do think that your view is correct. No one can call into question the fact that these topics do affect international peace and security, and this perhaps is the point that Mexico is trying to make. With all of the due care that is needed, so that at the right time the Council, and when it is necessary to do so, for the Council to discuss them and analyse them and incorporate them to ensure that we don't carry on working on these topics in silos, because sometimes that further generates greater efficiency in the system. I think that if the pandemic showed us anything, obviously it's still going on, it's not over yet, it was that working in silos, if we work in silos, the multilateral effort at a global level is significantly undermined and its effectiveness is significantly reduced. So this is another of the issues that I think will be in guiding the first debate, the second debate, and the third signature debate that Mexico has proposed.
Yeah, Institute.
Evelyn Leopold, thank you. I fear that my colleague, I don't fear, but my colleague Joe Klein has asked the question. And my only thing to add to is how you're going to deal with the surge of migrants on the southern border. Are you going to go into the difficulties in Central America and the gun running and the corruption and everything else? Is that part of the story?
Pues sí,
Well, yes, as you said, the issue is extremely complex because there's interconnection between all of these factors. And now I'm making a comment in exclusively national capacity because I think that the question warrants it. What Mexico has repeatedly suggested is that the matter should be managed in the three areas in which the phenomenon occurs, both in the places of origin, of transit, and in the host areas. This can't be something that is managed in a partial way, separated way. The plan put forward by Mexico initially with the support of the Economic Commission for Latin America, ECLAC, is a comprehensive plan, of course, aimed at including the social and environmental issues in countries of origin, as well as the problems that transit countries have to grapple with, and the need to ensure coordination that enables host countries to be a part of this continuum. This has been my country's point of view, and I can't say that the issue is fully accepted in this way, but we have seen that it is the most comprehensive way of viewing it. The president of Mexico has shown his readiness to support Central American countries in some of the programs that have been implemented in the southwest of Mexico that have seen significant headway in Mexico and that could then be adopted in countries of the Northern Triangle of Central America. They obviously need resources and political will. But Mexico's suggestion, which I think was very clear, was summarized in those terms. Thank you. If you agree, we will move on with the first question that we have from our correspondents online. The question comes from Celia Mendoza from Voice of America. Celia, you have the floor. Thank you very much. I don't know if you can hear me. Yes, we can hear you. Great. Congratulations to Mexico for this month of the presidency, and thank you very much for this meeting. Ambassador, could you tell us a little bit more about your expectations for the meeting on the 9th of November with the presence of the President, López Obrador, particularly with regard to what you've reiterated in some of the questions, the issue of migration and climate change. We're currently at COP26. How could that affect these discussions, given that the Secretary General has said that the issue of climate change has been particularly important, and given the fact that he recently visited Mexico? When you look at how could this affect the issue of migration, and how could it also affect other agenda items? If you could tell us more about the planned visit of the Mexican president on the 9th of November. Thank you. Of course, Celia. Thank you very much. The first thing I'd say is that President López Obrador is coming exclusively to this meeting, and he will be also meeting the Secretary General Antonio Guterres. These are the only two topics on his agenda. He will be in New York for less than 24 hours. And I think that his presence reflects the importance of the social nature of these items as a part of the agenda to prevent and have a more holistic view of what might become a crucial factor for international peace and security. And this brings into play many other factors that are also interrelated. However, I have to say, Celia, that all of the issues relating to climate change as such, we are not planning to address them this month, unless, of course, they will come up during these debates, because they were recently the source of council debates, and obviously because of the meeting that is currently being held in Glasgow. When we look at the link that there must be between the main bodies and the Security Council, this type of topic as well is what most demonstrates the need for there to be a more functional linkage. But as such, the issue of climate change is not contemplated on the program of work. But I insist that I think it will be unavoidable in our discussions, and it will be very interesting to see how far the discussions and suggestions made in Glasgow will go. Thank you. We'll now move on to the next question. Ipsam from Al-Arabi Haladi.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador, for the briefing. My name is Ibtisam Azim from, I'm here in the Al-Arabi Al-Jadid newspaper. My question is about Syria. As you know, the humanitarian situation is dire in Syria. And I see that you have Syria under consultation, which means that you're not going to have an open debate. And as you know, the cross-border delivery is in 6 months, in January. And the Russian ambassador in your last meeting talked about, and I'm paraphrasing here, that that Western countries should not think that the cross-border delivery will be automatically renewed. So could you tell us about your position and whether you are afraid that you will be in January getting to a vote and not another 6 months automatically? Thank you.
Pues,
Well, I hope that that won't necessarily be the case. But as you yourself pointed out, the discussions on these matters, in particular in Syria, have not been simple. Now, we do have a resolution 2585 that you'll be aware of. In my view, what would be more productive would be to be able to understand the progress made in a humanitarian sense in compliance with or pursuant to Resolution 2585 that was adopted unanimously. Access is fundamental. If there is no access, well, any other way of working will simply be a scenario, will simply be another declaration. Now, the truth is that Mexico, when we looked at this topic, or when we look at this topic, we think that the most important thing is truly to try to follow the resolution as closely as possible. If this leads us to have to consider other options or not, I'm not sure. I can't confirm that. But as I noted a few moments ago, there is a possibility of discussing some of these issues in consultations instead of debate, and I hope that that will also give us a little bit more leeway to discuss it. I don't really have anything else to say other than the fact that the concern at the humanitarian situation is increasing. However you look at it, the issue is serious. There are water shortages, low COVID vaccination rates, increasing infections, and also violent hostilities that have claimed civilian lives, the lives of women and children. These are obviously issues that concern the Council. That's our main concern, and it will be Mexico's main concern, that is, people's well-being. So we will do everything we can to ensure that humanitarian aid, which has become a demand on an unprecedented scale, can be accessible in all areas where it's needed. That's a great challenge on an economic level, political, and operational as well. So we need to try to cover the three flanks. And I think that the Council and the members of the Council also significantly prioritize these. That's what I can tell you on that. Thank you, Ambassador. I see that there are no more questions in the room. nor from our colleagues online. I don't know whether, Ambassador, you have any closing words before the end of this press conference?
Juan?
No, I just wanted to thank you for, amongst other things, bringing a number of different issues to the table that were not on the adopted agenda, but that no doubt will be on the program that we'll be following in coming weeks. You have my commitment to transparency and to information. We will be reporting to you as often as possible within the limits of our possibilities. Thank you very much for accompanying me this afternoon. Thank you very much. Thank you, one and all. We thank you for your participation. Good afternoon.